Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322. Now, I often get asked questions about my GTA car testing, and so I figured it was worthwhile to have a short video going over a few things that I can link to each time any question comes up. These are things I've gone over in various videos over the 6 years I've been doing this, but I think having it all in one place makes sense. So first of all, if you're wondering why you didn't see a car in any given list, which is probably the most common question I get, usually you haven't seen it for one of two reasons. One, you skip to the end of the video and the car that you think should be at the end actually isn't as quick as what you think it is. Or two, the car isn't in the class for the video that you're watching. This is most commonly asked about the Tesseract and the Pariah for the supercar top speed video, where the Tesseract isn't as quick as people think for top speed and the Pariah is in the sport class, not supers. Just check the lap time or top speed playlists for all classes of vehicle, as I've tested quite literally everything in the game, even things like the dozer, boats and planes, and it's all organised by what class the vehicle is in. Secondly, if you have any questions about my testing relating to how it's carried out, the answer will most likely be in the description of any of my testing videos. In each description there's a full methodology laid out that explains everything from start to finish, from the scientific methods I use to get accurate top speeds rather than just relying on inaccurate or misleading speedometers, to the process I go through to get best lap times. It also includes and explains any limitations, so you know exactly what I did and under what circumstances in order to make my results as accurate as can be reasonably expected. What the description doesn't really cover is why I choose to test the way that I do, and that comes down to relevancy and time. Testing the way that I do takes a non-trivial amount of time. For lap time testing, I take each car around the track for 10 laps at least, but often more, and for top speed testing I carry out 5 identical runs per car, all to ensure that I don't get some random anomalous result, and because it was the only test that I ran, I report that instead of what's more accurate. So the reason I don't test in more ways, such as acceleration testing, braking testing, how quick cars are in reverse, or motorcycle testing without wheelies, is simply because testing in the 2 ways that I do takes enough time as it is when it's done properly, or at least to the level of accuracy that I deem acceptable to put out to you. If I were to do one flying lap or one top speed run for each car and only focused on a set class like supercars, it would be a lot easier, but it wouldn't be as accurate, and I would rather test every vehicle in the game in 2 ways than only test one small subset of cars 15 different ways. The other aspect to that though is relevancy. I try to keep my testing as relevant as possible so as to give as much information to all of you who are trying to make your buying decisions. For me, lap time testing is one end of the spectrum, with top speed being the other, and together they give a pretty good all-round indication of overall performance. Lap time incorporates cornering, braking and acceleration abilities, while top speed incorporates obviously top speed. Doing acceleration or braking testing on top of this would be redundant, and in my opinion, these 2 testing methods cover the most common use cases of vehicles in the game. Testing how quick cars go in reverse, for example, isn't exactly the most relevant thing in the world, since how often are you actually travelling in reverse when comparing to how much you travel forwards? Similarly, testing motorcycles without wheelies is for me a waste of time, since there's very few situations where you can't get that front wheel up and get higher speeds. It's all about the time investment and how worthwhile it will be. That also extends to the way I test for lap time and top speed. People sometimes ask why I don't test top speed on a completely flat stunt road piece, and the reason, apart from the fact that cars actually travel slower on stunt roads than on regular roads, is because I feel that most people will more often be driving at top speed in-game on highways. For example, how often are you doing a stunt race first of all, and how often in those stunt races are you on a completely flat road for any prolonged period of time without running into drops, climbs, loops, etc., compared to just how much time you spend driving on the map. Similarly, I don't do drag race testing because apart from the super high level of variability of launching a car off the line, with many different methods to do that in order to minimise wheel spin and get better acceleration, that testing is really only relevant to a short drag race. Unless you're doing a short drag race, testing in that way doesn't tell you anything about how a car will perform in a race with corners, and it certainly doesn't tell you how it will perform over a long distance for top speed because you never reach it. When it comes to my lap time testing, I designed a track that had a good variety of corners. Some high speed flowy corners, some lower speed 90-degree corners, some slow and medium speed hairpins, as well as straights of varying lengths. Of course, some cars will perform better on different tracks than others. For example, on tracks that are more flowy, cars with better acceleration will do comparatively worse, but the track I use tries to include a little bit of everything in order to give the most all-round picture of performance. The only thing it doesn't really cover is top speed, which is why I do that testing separately. There are limitations to all of this, of course, and I do my best to explain those in the aforementioned video descriptions. Even my top speed testing tells you nothing about how a car will perform in most races. It simply gives you the final piece of the puzzle after the lap time testing covers the other aspects. In the end, I can't be everything to everyone and test every conceivable use case of every vehicle in the game, so I try to make my testing as general as possible in order to give as many people as possible an insight into vehicle performance in the most relevant ways possible. Now, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with any other ways of testing, of course. As long as they're done properly, with multiple runs to check for anomalies and full testing methods published so people can see exactly what was done and repeat it themselves or ask questions if necessary, there's no reason why other testing can't exist. All it does is serve the community better. As long as people are upfront about the limitations of any testing that they're doing and take the time to do it properly rather than just one quick 30-second test for easiness without considering the high possibility of errors in that scenario, then it's all good with me. It can actually be very useful to see how cars perform in different areas because we can see the differences, ask why, and then that leads us to better understanding once we've tested it further. I just don't want a community of people who already have to deal with ridiculous car prices in order to drive shark card sales waste their money on vehicles because of misinformation. That's why I take my own job doing my own testing so seriously, to try to give the most complete indication of performance as possible for one person to do. I feel like I try to keep myself to high standards. For example, I never put mid-roll ads in any of my videos because I don't like seeing them when I'm watching YouTube, and I'd prefer you to be able to enjoy my content without being interrupted, regardless of the length. That mindset extends into everything that I do, and I have to be happy that any content that I put out is worth your time from an entertainment perspective if we're talking about racing videos like the 5M random stuff, and from an informative perspective if we're talking about testing or weekly discount videos. Now, I know that mindset isn't the best way to succeed on YouTube because I simply can't put out the numbers of videos that others can, but I'd much rather spend time putting out one video with accurate testing that takes a lot of time to do than do quick and easy testing in order to get out 10 videos instead. I know a lot of people appreciate that, but it's probably also lost on many more, and in the end, I'm okay with that. That's just how the world is. Hopefully for anyone new to the channel or who had questions, this video has covered everything that you wanted to know alongside the descriptions of my testing videos, and for those who've been here for some time and already appreciate the time that goes into everything I do, thanks for sticking with me and supporting. Whether it's from hitting the join button here on YouTube, donating on Patreon or Twitch, or just watching and enjoying the content without even leaving a like or a comment, I'm lucky to have you all and I massively appreciate you being here. I've been testing cars on GTA since it was released in 2013, and I'm not going to be stopping anytime soon. Thanks a lot for watching everyone, and thank you all so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.